Some stories are never spoken out loud, not because they don't matter, but because no one ever stopped to listen. Here, we tell the stories hidden between silence and truth, the moments people never talk about, the emotions left unsaid. This is not just a channel. It's a place where real stories breathe. You're watching Unsaid Live, where every story has something left unsaid. I never thought my life would come down to a mop, a bucket, and a name no one bothered to remember. Every morning, my alarm rang at 4:30 a.m. Not because I wanted it to, but because survival doesn't care about comfort. I'd wake up in the dark, careful not to make a sound. The apartment was small, too small for a grown man and an 8-year-old girl, but it was all we had. I'd pause at my daughter Lily's door every single morning, watching her sleep. That moment, that quiet moment, was the only thing that made the day bearable. She used to ask, "Why does Daddy leave when it's still dark?" I never answered directly. How do you explain to a child that the world doesn't slow down for pain? My hands, they told the real story. Cracked skin, chemical burns, calluses layered over older scars. 6 months of scrubbing floors inside TechVision Corporation had turned my palms into proof of something I never wanted Lily to see. By the time the city woke up, I was already invisible. When I walked into TechVision's headquarters, people didn't see me. They saw a uniform, a cart, a moving object they could step around. Executives in tailored suits passed me without eye contact. Conversations continued over my head, as if I wasn't standing there. Some days, I wondered if I actually existed or if I had become part of the building itself. Just another fixture. I earned $18 an hour. After taxes, it barely covered rent, food, and Lily's school expenses. There was no room for emergencies, no room for mistakes. And still, I never complained. Because this life, as humiliating as it looked from the outside, was something I had chosen. 18 months earlier, I lived a completely different reality. Back then, I worked in Shanghai. 52nd floor. Glass walls. Corner office overlooking the river. I wore tailored suits. I negotiated billion-dollar deals before lunch. Governments returned my calls. CEOs waited for my approval. I spoke 4 languages fluently. I built companies from the ground up. I was respected, feared, even. And yet, none of that mattered here. At TechVision, I was the janitor. And that was exactly how my father wanted it. My father, Richard Chun, built TechVision from a 5-person garage startup into a global tech empire. When he died, at his desk, no less, he didn't leave me just a company. He left me a condition. 6 months. Anonymous. Every level of the company. No title. No protection. No special treatment. His final words still echoed in my mind. You can't lead people you don't understand. So I obeyed. I worked in the mailroom. I handled maintenance. I cleaned floors. And I learned more about TechVision in 6 months than I had in my entire career. Especially about her. Her name was Elena Brooks. Stanford MBA. CEO for 14 months. Forbes magazine called her the Ice Queen of Tech. She had transformed TechVision into a multi-billion-dollar AI powerhouse in record time. Stock prices soared. Investors loved her. Employees feared her. I watched her every morning without her ever noticing me. The way she dismissed assistants mid-sentence. The way she fired people with families for poor cultural fit. The way she never bothered to learn names. To her, people were numbers. Replaceable. Disposable. And she had no idea who I was. One morning, just after 6, I overheard something that made my hands freeze on the cart. I was outside the executive conference room, pretending to clean. Eliminate facilities, Elena said calmly. Outsource the entire department. Someone asked about costs. She didn't hesitate. It saves us $200,000 a year. 200,000. That was it. 37 janitors. 37 families. Gone, right before Christmas. I thought about Maria, who sent money to her sick mother in Honduras. James, saving for his daughter's wedding. Luis, 62 years old, raising his grandson alone. To Elena, they were just a line item. To me, they were human beings. That night, I went home and sat on the pull-out couch, staring at my laptop. My attorney had emailed. Tomorrow is day 180. How do you want to proceed? I didn't hesitate. I typed back. I'll come in as the janitor. Let her fire me publicly. If Elena Brooks was going to show the world who she really was, I wanted everyone to see it clearly. The next morning, I stood outside TechVision before sunrise. The glass tower reflected gold and fire as the sun rose behind it. The same building my father had dreamed into existence. I wore my Navy janitor uniform. For the last time, I pushed my cart through the halls, every step heavy with meaning. Every squeak of the wheel felt like a countdown. Elena finally noticed me that day. She snapped her fingers. You, cleaning guy, what's your name? Marcus, I said calmly. Marcus Chun. She frowned for half a second, then dismissed it. I need conference room spotless by 9. The board is meeting. I nodded. Yes, ma'am. The irony almost crushed me. The room where she would lose everything was the room she ordered me to clean. As I wiped down the massive walnut table my father had bought decades ago, I realized something. This wasn't revenge. This was a test. Not just for her, but for me. Could I take power without becoming cruel? Could I change the system without destroying the person trapped inside it? At 9 a.m., the board arrived. And at 9:02 a.m., my life, and hers, changed forever. 9 o'clock sharp. Conference room A filled up faster than I expected. Board members walked in wearing confidence like armor. Expensive suits. Polished smiles. People who believed they controlled the future simply because they sat at the longest table in the room. I stood outside the door in my janitor uniform, hands clasped behind my back, staring at the floor like I had done for 6 months. Invisible. Quiet. Waiting. Inside that room, Elena Brooks sat at the head of the table. The same woman who hadn't learned my name. The same woman who had just decided to erase 37 families with a single sentence. She checked her watch, irritation flashing across her face. I only have 30 minutes, she said. Let's get this over with. That sentence told me everything. Jennifer Wu cleared her throat. Elena, she said calmly. Before we begin, there's something we need to address. Elena didn't look up from her tablet. If this is about cost reductions, I've already made my position clear. Jennifer exchanged a glance with 2 other board members. It's not about costs, she said. It's about ownership. That made Elena look up. For the first time, I saw uncertainty cross her face. What do you mean? Elena asked. Jennifer folded her hands. Richard Chin's will contain a clause that activates today. The room went quiet. Elena leaned back, arms crossed. Richard Chin didn't have a son, she said dismissively. And even if he did, this is irrelevant. I've been running this company for 14 months. Jennifer's voice didn't change. He did have a son, and he's been here the entire time. Silence. The kind that presses against your ears. Elena laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. That's not funny. Jennifer turned her head toward the door. Marcus, she said gently. You can come in now. I stepped inside, still wearing the janitor uniform, still holding myself small out of habit. 14 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Some confused, some annoyed, some slowly realizing something was wrong. Elena stared. Her face drained of color so fast, it almost scared me. No, she whispered. No, this is some kind of joke. I met her eyes. Good morning, Ms. Brooks, I said quietly. I believe we have a board meeting. Her chair scraped loudly as she stood. You're telling me, her voice shook, that he... She pointed at me like I was contaminated. Is Richard Chin's son? Jennifer nodded. The janitor you've been giving orders to for 6 months, she said, is the majority shareholder of TechVision. Elena's mouth opened, closed, opened again, and then came anger. You all knew, she said, voice rising. You let me humiliate myself. No one answered immediately. Finally, Michael Torres spoke. No one humiliated you, Elena, he said quietly. You did that yourself. That hit her harder than shouting ever could. She turned to me. You lied, she said. You deceived this company. I shook my head. I followed my father's will, I replied. And I worked here honestly. Every shift, every job. She scoffed. With a mop. Yes, I said calmly. With a mop. The room was tense now. Heavy. Elena's voice sharpened. You can't possibly understand what it takes to run a modern tech company. I took a slow breath. For 6 months, I said. I watched how you run it. She stiffened. I watched you fire people with families for a poor cultural fit. I watched you cut benefits while approving a seven-figure bonus. And this morning, I heard you outsource 37 janitors to save less than 1% of revenue. Her face went pale. How would you? I was there, I said. I was invisible. I walked to the head of the table. My father's chair. For the first time, I sat down. This company doesn't have a performance problem, I said quietly. It has a humanity problem. Elena slammed her hand on the table. This is my company, she shouted. I built this success. You built profits, I replied. But you destroyed trust. The board watched in silence. Elena's voice cracked. You can't give this company to someone who's been cleaning toilets. Jennifer didn't miss a beat. He built our Asia-Pacific division from $50 million to $28 billion, she said. He has an MBA from Wharton and a degree from MIT. Elena looked stunned. I added softly, and I still chose to clean toilets. She laughed bitterly. People matter more than profits, she said mockingly. That's how mediocre companies die. My voice stayed steady. My father believed the opposite. Her eyes flared. Your father worked himself to death protecting people who didn't deserve it. A few board members gasped. I felt the words, but I didn't flinch. He died because he refused to abandon families, I said. And every one of those families showed up at his funeral. Silence swallowed the room. Elena sank back into her chair. So what now? She said quietly. You want my resignation? I studied her. The armor. The fear underneath it. I'm not firing you, I said. Her head snapped up. I'm giving you a choice. She stared at me, confused. Leave, I continued. With a generous severance and your reputation intact. She swallowed. Or stay. Her brows furrowed. As president and COO, I said, reporting to me. The room held its breath. Why? She asked. Her voice was barely audible. Because you're brilliant, I said honestly. And because I think you forgot who you were trying to become. She looked away. I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. An old article. San Jose Mercury News. 2008. Local homeless teen wins full scholarship to Stanford. Her hands trembled as she read. That was you, I said. My father funded that scholarship. Tears filled her eyes. I forgot, she whispered. No, I said gently. You survived, and then you armored yourself. The room was quiet. Elena looked up at me. I don't know if I can change. I stood and extended my hand. You already are, I said. The question is whether you're brave enough to keep going. She stared at my hand. At the scars. The calluses. Proof of the life she'd ignored. 10 seconds passed. Then she took it. When the board meeting ended, no one spoke. People gathered their laptops, straightened their jackets, avoided eye contact, like witnesses leaving the scene of something they didn't know how to process. Elena Brooks didn't move. She sat there at the table, shoulders stiff, staring at nothing. For 14 months, she had been the most powerful person in the room. And in less than 20 minutes, everything she believed about herself had been stripped away. Give us a moment, I said quietly. The last board member closed the door behind them. The room felt smaller without an audience. Elena finally spoke. You planned this, she said, not looking at me. I didn't deny it. I planned to understand you, I replied. I didn't plan to humiliate you. She laughed, hollow, bitter. Same difference. I leaned against the table, not sitting this time. For 6 months, I said, I watched how you walked into this building every morning like you were going into battle. Her jaw tightened. You think I wanted to be this way? No, I said honestly. I think you were afraid not to be. That made her flinch. She stood suddenly, pacing. You don't understand what it's like, she said sharply. To come from nothing. To claw your way up. To be surrounded by people waiting for you to fail. I stayed quiet. Because I did understand. I was homeless at 18, she continued, voice rising. Sleeping in my car. Working 3 jobs. Every day, I was one bad decision away from disappearing. She stopped pacing. Do you know what the world teaches people like me? I shook my head slowly. That kindness is weakness, she said. That if you hesitate, you lose. If you care, people take advantage of you. Her eyes burned. So I stopped caring. Silence settled between us. I walked to the window. San Francisco stretched out below, glass, steel, ambition stacked on top of ambition. My father believed power was a responsibility, I said. He believed leaders exist to protect people, not consume them. She scoffed. And where did that belief get him? I turned to face her. It made him human. Her voice dropped. It killed him. I didn't argue. Instead, I said, he died knowing he didn't abandon anyone. She looked away. I could see the cracks now. The exhaustion. The loneliness she hid behind precision and control. Why didn't you expose me? She asked suddenly. You could have destroyed me. Ruined my career. I took a breath. Because revenge doesn't build anything, I said. And because my father believed in second chances. She laughed quietly. Your father believed in everyone. Yes, I said. Even you. That broke something. Her shoulders shook. She turned her face away, but I saw the tears. I didn't even know who funded that scholarship, she whispered. I never thanked him. You're thanking him now, I said gently. By staying. She wiped her face quickly, embarrassed. I don't know how to be softer, she admitted. I don't know how to lead without being feared. I stepped closer. Fear gets compliance, I said. Respect gets loyalty. She met my eyes. What if they don't respect me? I smiled sadly. Then we'll earn it together. Her phone buzzed. Investor messages. Emails stacking up. Reality pressing back in. I'm not good at this, she said quietly. At being seen. Neither was I. I spent 6 months being invisible, I replied. And I learned something important. She looked up. Being seen is scarier than being ignored. She exhaled slowly. Stay, she said finally. But don't protect me if I screw this up. I nodded. I won't. She looked relieved by that. Later that evening, I drove home in my old Honda. Same car. Same cracked dashboard. But my hands were shaking. Not from fear. From responsibility. When I picked Lily up, she ran into my arms like always. Daddy, you're early. I held her longer than usual. Did something change? She asked. Yes, I said softly. Something big. She looked up. Are you still my daddy? I smiled. Always. That night, as Lily slept, I sat alone. Thinking about Elena. Thinking about the armor we wear to survive. And how heavy it becomes when we forget why we put it on. Tomorrow, we'd face investors. The press. The market. But tonight, we were just two broken people trying to choose something better. The backlash didn't take days. It took minutes. By the time Elena and I stepped out of the boardroom, our phones were already vibrating like something alive. Messages. Alerts. Panic disguised as concern. An assistant caught up to us, breathless. Sir, the stock is dropping. I didn't stop walking. How much? 4% and falling. Elena closed her eyes for half a second. This was always going to hurt, she said quietly. She wasn't wrong. By the time we reached my office, the headlines had already begun forming. Janitor CEO exposed. Corporate espionage or publicity stunt. Did TechVision CEO spy on his own employees? I stared at the screen. 6 months of silence. Rewritten as deception. Elena read over my shoulder. They're going to frame this as betrayal, she said. They always do. I rubbed my temples. This is what truth costs, I replied. She looked at me. Are you ready to pay it? I nodded. The emergency investor meeting was scheduled for Monday morning. That gave us exactly 1 weekend to prepare. And no room for mistakes. The conference room was packed. Board members, institutional investors, legal advisors, and one Bloomberg reporter who had somehow slipped through security. The air felt heavy. This wasn't business anymore. This was blood sport. Gerald Hastings spoke first. Silver hair. Old money. A man who believed companies existed to reward people like him. You hid your identity, he said sharply, staring at me. You infiltrated your own company under false pretenses. I didn't interrupt. That's corporate espionage, he continued. And I move for an immediate investigation. Murmurs filled the room. I opened my mouth to respond. Elena stood first. No, she said firmly. Every head turned. You don't get to rewrite the truth, she continued. Marcus didn't spy on anyone. He worked. Gerald scoffed. As a janitor? Yes, she said. For 14-hour shifts. For $18 an hour. She stepped closer to me, shoulder to shoulder. For 6 months, not one executive here learned his name, she said. And now you want to investigate him? The room went quiet. Gerald leaned back. This is emotional theater, he said. Markets don't care about feelings. Elena's voice didn't shake. Then you don't understand markets, she replied. Because markets are made of people. She took a breath. I was wrong, she said. For 14 months, I ran this company like a machine. I optimized. I cut. I pushed. Her voice cracked. And I forgot who helped me survive when I had nothing. She turned to the room. I was homeless at 18. Sleeping in my car. 3 jobs. No safety net. Gasps. I got a full scholarship to Stanford, she continued. And I never knew who funded it. She pulled out her phone. It was Richard Chun. My father. I owe everything I have to a man who believed compassion wasn't weakness, she said. And for 14 months, I destroyed his legacy. She looked at me. And instead of exposing me, his son gave me a second chance. Silence. Not the tense kind. The stunned kind. Gerald's voice was quieter now. You're defending him because you're compromised. Elena didn't blink. No, she said. I'm defending him because he reminded me who I used to be. She turned to the board. If you suspend Marcus Chun, she said evenly, you suspend me too. That landed like a bomb. I stared at her. She hadn't warned me. She hadn't asked. She chose. Jennifer Wu cleared her throat. Motion to suspend Marcus Chun, she said. All in favor. No hands. Motion denied. The meeting continued, but the damage was done, or maybe undone. The stock stabilized. The headlines softened. But something deeper had shifted. Afterward, Elena and I stood alone in an empty conference room. You didn't have to do that, I said quietly. Yes, she replied. I did. She leaned against the table, exhausted. For 15 years, I survived by hiding, she said. And today, for the first time, I told the truth. I nodded. That's leadership. She laughed softly. I'm terrified. Good, I said. So am I. She looked at me, eyes searching. Why didn't you hate me? She asked. I thought about it. Because I recognized you, I said. I saw someone who learned the wrong lessons from pain. She swallowed. I don't know how to unlearn them. You don't have to all at once, I replied. Just start with one honest step. She nodded slowly. That night, my phone buzzed. A text from Lily. Daddy, Mrs. Rodriguez says you're famous now. I smiled. Only a little. I typed back. Are you still coming to dinner? Always. Elena watched me text. She knows? She asked. She knows I'm her father, I said. That's enough. She hesitated. I want to meet her, she said softly. Not as your boss. Not as your COO. As a person? Yes. I nodded. Saturday, I said. Pancakes. She smiled. Small, nervous, real. I'll bring orange juice. Saturday morning came quietly. No headlines. No investors. No boardrooms. Just sunlight slipping through the kitchen window. And the smell of pancakes burning slightly on the pan. Lily sat on the counter, legs swinging, wearing mismatched socks like it was a rule she had invented herself. Is she really coming? She asked. Yes, I said, flipping a pancake badly. She's really coming. Is she scary? I smiled. Sometimes, I admitted. But I think she's trying not to be. The doorbell rang. My heart beat faster than it ever had in any board meeting. When I opened the door, Elena stood there in jeans and a simple white blouse. No makeup, no heels, just a carton of orange juice and a nervous smile. Hi, she said. I hope I'm not late. You're early, Lily said seriously. That's good. Elena laughed, a real laugh, not the controlled one she used at work. I like you already, she said. Something in my chest loosened. Breakfast was awkward. Pancakes slightly burned. Juice spilled on the table. Questions Lily asked without fear. Why do you work with my daddy? Why don't your socks match? Do grown-ups get scared too? Elena answered every question honestly. Yes. All the time. Especially when something matters. After breakfast, Lily showed her drawings. This is Daddy at work, she said proudly. He has a cape. Elena knelt down to Lily's level. He really does, she said softly. You just can't always see it. I turned away so they wouldn't see my eyes. Later that afternoon, Lily fell asleep on the couch. The apartment was quiet. Elena and I washed dishes side by side. I'm terrified, she said suddenly. Of failing. Of hurting people again. I nodded. So am I replied. That means we care. She looked at me. I don't know how to live without armor. You don't remove it, I said. You learn when to set it down. She leaned against the counter. I almost walked away, she admitted. 3 times. But you didn't. No, she said. Because I remembered who helped me survive. Monday came faster than I wanted. The boardroom was full again. But this time, the energy was different. No shouting. No accusations. Just scrutiny. Questions about leadership. About vision. About whether compassion could survive capitalism. Elena stood beside me. Not in front. Not behind. Beside. When someone asked why she stayed, she answered without hesitation. Because I was wrong, she said. And because I want to build something better. The room didn't applaud. But they listened. And that mattered more. 3 months later, the building felt different. People smiled. Executives knew names. Janitors ate at the same tables. The word belonging returned. Employee satisfaction rose. Turnover dropped. Stock recovered, then climbed. Turns out, treating people like humans is good business. Who knew? At the holiday party, everyone was invited. Not just executives. Everyone. I watched Maria dance with her visiting mother. James laugh with his daughter. Luis holding his grandson, smiling without fear. Elena stood beside me. Still weird, she said quietly. 3 months ago, I didn't know their names. Progress, I said. She squeezed my hand. When Jennifer invited me to speak, I didn't plan anything. I just told the truth. My father died at his desk, I said. Trying to save jobs. Silence. He believed companies exist to protect people. I looked at Lily in the crowd. My daughter asked if I was a good boss or just a boss. I swallowed. I'm trying to be the kind of leader my parents were. Applause rose, slow, then thunderous. Elena kissed me in front of everyone. I didn't stop her. Later that night, she handed me an envelope. I found this in your father's office, she said. He wrote it for you, and for me. We read it together. About second chances. About seeing people for who they could become. About my mother mentoring a young, homeless student named Elena. She cried. I never knew, she whispered. She knew you'd matter, I said. Before you did. Lily hugged us both. Happy and sad can mix, she said wisely. She was right. 1 year later, I keep 3 photos on my desk. One of Lily at the beach, laughing. One of TechVision's entire staff. One family. One of my parents, young and hopeful. Every morning, they remind me why power exists. Not to dominate. Not to destroy. But to protect. Elena walked into my office. "Board meeting in 5, she said. "And pancakes tomorrow." I smiled.